Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Bookish Bites. Today we are here with author Delete. See, I had it all before the show. Delisha, did I
Delizhia.
say it right? Jenkins,
Delizhia.
Delisha. I want to say Delilah for some reason. Okay, and I have her book, The Lost Queen, but she has released a new book, and I cannot say that name. Is it Skemet? How do you say that? How's the title of your new book?
I just posted the Blood of Sekhmet up for a pre-order. It's not out yet. I'm just
Oh, okay.
preparing and marketing and all of that stuff. I wanted to let everybody know that I am coming out with a new book. So go ahead and pre-order your copy.
Yes, I love the cover. I love the cover. It looks nice. Both your covers look nice. I love it.
Thank you so
Um,
much.
you're welcome. So to this week's topic, we are talking about the calling. So it could be the calling to be an author, the calling to be an artist, the calling to be a doctor, whatever your calling is. Everybody has a calling. I believe everybody has a calling. Not everybody answers, but I believe that everybody has a calling. So there was something that, and I could be wrong, but I could have sworn you mentioned something about dreaming the characters in The Lost Queen, or dreaming about your book before you started writing or around the time you were writing. Is that correct? You had some
That
kind
is
of
correct. That is very much so correct.
Hey.
Yay.
I've been getting it
Yay.
wrong when I'm like, isn't your book about? And they're like, no.
No, you were absolutely correct on that one. Lost Queen began
Okay.
with a dream.
Wow. So tell me about that, because that's fascinating for me.
Okay, so I have I have experienced a lot of things on within or on the dreamscape. So
Mm,
having these interesting experiences within the dream realm is not foreign to me. But
mm-hmm.
when the dream that I experienced prior to writing The Lost Queen involved me interacting with ancient beings. They were, I can't really describe this, how it felt. Um, so I had this encounter with a group of beings, and in this dream, they were speaking to me in a language that to this day I don't know what it is. But I
Wow.
understood it within the dream as they're communicating with me. And
Mm,
so these were the closest resemblance that I can maybe give you a reference to are the Aborigine people of Australia, how they look with the
mm-hmm.
tribal
Mm-hmm.
markings, the blue black skin, and
Yeah.
then they had tall, lengthy bodies. And then towards the end of this encounter, I was kissed on the forehead, and
Mm,
they were whispering something to me in that language. And then as I was waking up from this dream, I could still hear the language in my head. But then of course, as I, started to maneuver and go about my daily task, it just lost me.
yeah.
So I had pondered this dream for a while, and it sparked this whole thing with like this identity with, being maybe chosen or marked for something beyond
Mm-hmm.
yourself. And it the Lost Queen came about when I was kind of on this path of finding myself spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
And um and then, being at my big age, at the
Mm-hmm.
time I wrote The Lost Queen, I was well into my 30s. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the fantasy books that I'd come across always involved a woman that's maybe virginal, but under the age of 25, having these experiences. And so, on top of that, with that dream, it made me think about my own experiences with spirituality, and then being
Mm-hmm.
a single mother, being having this awakening. So
Mm-hmm.
how this dream resonated is I wrote myself and my child into this story with this identity of being the lost queen of this heir to this deity Mercury. and having and being connected to this world, like this whole world that I built within this story is
Mhm.
is is connected to, like, the survival of the world is deeply connected to my character. The world is on the
Um,
verge of not being able to survive because Mercury's energy and power is not no longer tied to that realm, but now
mhm.
it's tied through his daughter, which is her. So
Mhm.
it just that dream of being kissed and being, I guess, chosen for my bloodline. That's the way that I'm interpreting it. Um,
Mhm.
led to this whole storyline of her go not just awakening, but then going through the series of emotional ups and downs that happen
Yeah.
when you awaken. So there you
Interesting.
have it.
No, no, I completely understand. So have you ever did like a DNA test or have you ever looked into your family history?
I thought about doing a DNA test. I have been
Mhm.
considering it for years, but being that there, I have a deep mistrust about that, because where is that information being harvested and being sent to? So I
Yes.
have questions. And
Mhm.
it's interesting that these opportunities for people to do genealogy testing is available to us, but it's not going to stick. It's not going to be just between me and the lab alone. Where are these results
Right.
going to? And then
Yes.
what if you find something in my bloodline that sparks interest? And then I kind of touch
Yeah.
base on that a little bit in the Lost Queen as well.
Okay. Yeah, I actually don't trust. I'm with you on that. I do know that there's two things that makes me like weary with it. One thing, it says on there for entertainment purposes only. So if it's for entertainment purposes only, that means I can't really take it seriously, right? Um and then
Correct.
the other thing is that yeah, you don't know who or what you're giving permission to use your DNA to do whatever they want to do with it. So I do, and I know they say, well, they already have copies of your DNA. That's fine. There's nothing I could do about that. You go to the ER, you have an emergency. There's nothing you can do about that. You're at their mercy. I go, but this is something I have a choice over, and I don't want to give that choice away. you know.
Yeah,
So
absolutely not.
yeah, I agree with you on that, 100%. Um, I've actually looked into my past because I've had dreams, like ancestral dreams, I would call them. And I think one of my first ones, this is why I love what you're saying. One of my first ones was me running through the rainforest, and I had long, thick, wavy hair that went down to the back of my ankles. Like it was long. And I'm
What?
running through, yeah. And I'm
Wait,
running
we
through
need
the
to talk some
rainforest.
more because I had a similar dream too. I
Oh,
posted it
you
on
did?
Facebook, but I was an
Oh,
Asian woman running through the jungles of Asia. But continue.
okay. 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 We will come back to that. We're going to circle back. But okay. So I was running through and then I came to where, like, in the rainforest, it was like almost like a temple's, it was like the outside of the temple wall set up. And I went through. And as I went through, on the floor was a big sun. And when you stepped on it, it was like kind of soft and smushy feeling, and it freaked me out. And I stepped back. So I was standing in the middle. On one side, they were all Asian. They were Chinese. Like I don't really want to say like Buddhists, but they were all Chinese. Like I don't know if they were Buddhists. I don't know if Taoism. I'm not 100% sure, but they were all Asian, and they were like coming towards me, like come over here. Like they were trying to protect me. But the first people I saw standing off by a waterfall were these three women who look like me. They all had long hair, long, thick, wavy, curly hair that went down to the back of their ankles. They were all tribal. So I went to them because that they look like me. And we were all kind of huddled together. But when I looked on the other side, there was East Indian, and then further back there was Native American. And it's like there's all these different cultures that I dreamt. And I realized those are all the ancestors that kind of make me, like that make up my DNA. And that's what I had dreamt. I had dreamt all of those, or I don't know, maybe I don't know if you believe in past lives. Maybe it was
I
past
do.
stuff, but it was, yeah, it was a very interesting dream. But then later on, I found out that I do have Chinese, I do have Caribbean, Arawak, and I do have North American Indian also. My grandmother is Cherokee. She's like Cherokee, I guess Cherokee and black. And then my dad, he's also mixed too. So, but and then I was in Trinidad. That was the other thing. I was like in. I knew I was in Trinidad, and that was like that dream stuck with me to this day. I had that dream years ago. I was probably like 22, 23 when I had that dream, and it's stuck with me my whole life so far up to this point. So I do think that I don't know. I think there's so much more to life, and maybe we do. There's a calling on this, and look at we're both writing. Isn't that fascinating?
Yes. And having these experiences on the dreamscape.
Yes, yes, yes. So tell me a little bit about. So is the second book that's coming out? Is it like a continuation of the Lost Queen, or is that a separate standalone?
So the Blood of Sekhmet is a different story that will be a trilogy, actually. So there's no relation to the
Oh,
Lost
okay.
Queen at all.
Oh, okay. Okay. Oh, wow. So it's gonna be a trilogy. That is cool.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Do you ever feel like your characters are communicating with you?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Because sometimes I can hear them talking to me, or I can see
Mhm.
them
Mhm.
before I even start writing the story. But in
Yeah.
the most recent years, certain deities call out to me, and they
Mhm.
um, introduce themselves to me energetically.
Mhm.
And so that's the case of with Sekhmet. Sekhmet is um, a deity that I am connected to, and she reached
Mhm.
out to me, and I did not like how she's been portrayed, because how she's
Mhm.
portrayed and the entitlement that other cultures and races have when it comes to her infuriates me. And
Mhm.
so I wanted to do a story. It's a fictional story, but her energy is in there. It's present in
Mhm.
there.
Mhm.
Um, that really kind of gives tribute to who she really is as a powerful being.
Wow. Okay. I like that. And that's different. Like I okay, so I write books on they're like spiritual warfare, and but I don't think they're what mainstream Christianity would consider. It has a twist to it. They may not like it too much, but I love it and I enjoy it. So that's what I write in. It's kind of hard. Do you have challenges putting your book in a genre, like, or you just like for me, like I never know what genre to really put my book in. I'm trying out Christian fiction right now, seeing how that goes. Yeah.
Sometimes I get my mind splits on where exactly it fits, and then I just try to find the
Yeah.
categories that fits it as closely as possible. And then sometimes the books just kind of spill over into other subcategories as well.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
any of the books that we write will ever truly fit in just one box of a genre.
I agree. I just say multi-genre, but they don't have a category like that I know of on on Amazon. So,
No.
but yeah, yeah, I wish they did. But yeah,
For
I
real.
feel like yeah, for me, my books are character driven, and it sounds like yours are character driven also. And
Yes.
Yeah, it is. It's very character driven because they're pretty much running the show. I just feel like I'm just like the tool writing the story. That's it. I'm
I feel
just
that.
a tool.
I feel
hmm
that.
I've even wondered if these characters were actually people in the past, or so like, is
Maybe.
it? I don't know. I've always toyed with that idea. I was like, what if it's not just an imaginary character? What if this is actually like, you know, an actual person, an actual being from another time,
Or a
and
parallel
they're
universe.
or a parallel universe, and they're sharing their experience with me. And it's just like, and I've had people tell me, your characters seem so real. I feel like I'm gonna bump into them, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool.
That's a heck of a compliment.
I know. Let me know if you bump into him. Let me know where he is because some of them looking mighty good. So,
For real.
right? Oh my gosh. Yeah. So when I had seen that in your book, I was like, oh, that's it. I already know what this conversation is going to be about. That was pretty much it for me. So tell me about the dream you had that you said where you were in Asia in the
Yes,
jungle.
I felt I was like, when you're in your dream and you just looking around, you would not really be able to tell where you are, but you feel where you are.
Mhm.
Does that make
Yeah.
sense? So I
Yes.
know I'm somewhere in Asia, probably maybe the jungles of Vietnam, but it was during a period, and it was one of those dreams where I am in the body of the person I'm dreaming about. So I'm actually existing in that perspective and not from the third person perspective
Yeah.
sometimes. So I
Yeah.
can feel everything that's happening to me. I was being heavily pursued, like, and it's crazy that you and I both had a very similar dream experience where we're in the jungle being pursued by men, but
Mhm.
in this dream I was pursued and I was actually captured, and then right at the moment where I'm
Mm.
going to die, that's when I wake up.
Oh wow. Okay,
Yes.
you said something very interesting because I don't think I told you I was being chased by men.
Oh
You
wow.
picked it up. You picked it up.
Maybe we're related on the dream.
Right?
Like there's a connection
Right?
here with this dream.
That is so crazy. Yeah, I was being pursued. I was being pursued by other tribal men. And see, this is what I found out after the dream. Back in those days, what would happen is when another tribe took over another tribe. So for example, the Carib went after the Arawak. The Arawak were a very peaceful, easygoing tribe. The Caribs were very aggressive. And from what I understood, they would pursue the Arawak, they would kill off the men and capture the women. And I believe that
Oh
was
Lord.
what was, yeah, that's what was going on. I found that out after the dream because in the dream I was like, I'm running, and it's from other tribal men, men from a different tribe. So when I saw the females, when I saw the women, and there was no more men, it was just three females, and well, me, I made four, and that was it. Like, so it's that's so funny you said that. I'm like, wow, I think I forgot to put that in there.
Oh
And I
Lord.
was
I,
running
I
from
don't know why
men.
I just I thought I heard you say that. We were just
I don't know,
connected.
maybe I'll look back and see, but I'm like, no, I remember saying I was running, but I didn't say what I was running from.
Oh God. Maybe
I
there's
love it.
there's
I love
where there's
it.
a connection between us, you and I, and these dreams
Yeah.
that we had where we're on the run. So who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? Because I mean, have you ever dreamt your characters, like dreamt scenes that you put into your books?
So the scenes that I put in my books are not necessarily from when I'm in the dreamscape,
Mm-hmm.
but they're snapshots of visions that I have while I'm actively conscious. So I could be
Mm.
walking down the street and then I just kind of start daydreaming about, I just start seeing these visions and these moments, these snapshots or these glimpses of this action that's taking place. So
Wow.
the last few days, as because again, the blood of Sekhmet will be a trilogy. I have
Mhm.
more snapshots. I've been getting all of these snapshots or these scenes, especially the fight scenes that my characters will be engaging in.
Okay. 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 So you got to tell me more about this deity. Like, how is she portrayed in history that you discovered?
So, Sekhmet is so she's an Egyptian deity, and her name literally means the powerful one.
Mm.
And depending on the cult following or like the history, the period that
Mhm.
she appears in, Sekhmet is either the direct daughter, the direct creation of Ra himself, or
Mhm.
she is another aspect of Hathor, the goddess Hathor.
Mhm.
Or,
Mm.
and then that's where the other goddess Bast or Baset comes in.
Mhm. Mhm.
Baset, it may, she has either her own identity that has nothing to do with Sekhmet, or she is the Sekhmet where.
Oh, so, mhm.
So, as an Egyptian god, and I've been studying Egyptian history and lore for almost a year now. And what I
Mhm.
have found is that the history, the magic, the practices, the religion, the belief systems, that is not credited to the Black African, you know, and
Mm.
other races and cultures have had their hands in it. And there's a lot of women that are, palm colored that,
Mhm.
have adopted Sekhmet and Isis and other
Mm.
these other main Egyptian deities into their own
Mhm.
spiritual practices. And they have whitewashed a lot of Egypt, and to the point where even the Egyptians that are there today do not want to have any type of proximity to blackness. But then when we look in the very
Mm.
beginning and origins of Egypt, when both North and South Egypt became united, and the originators that came from like the southern regions of Africa and settled over
Mhm.
on the Nile, they were black. So
Yeah.
when and so everyone wants to have a hand in Sekhmet, and Sekhmet at the end of the day is a black god. And so she's
Mm.
known for her power, and she is historically dubbed as the mistress of dread. And people always focus more so on her warrior aspects rather than the other more personal aspects of who she is. Yes, she man, when she goes to battle,
Mm.
it's on. It's definitely on.
Wow.
She's up there as far as maybe Kali, as when it comes to being powerful, like Kalima or Durga,
Mhm.
or so she's up there.
Mhm.
She's an extremely powerful deity. And so, but people focus on that too much. And
Mm.
when I work with her, there's an experience of love, divine love, and protection and assurance. It's almost like being loved by an actual cat. Like if you're a cat lady, you know how cats love on you,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
know how it
Yeah.
feels to be chosen by a cat. Like it's complete
Mhm.
adoration. So I want to show that in not just this book, like how she fiercely protects what she identifies as her own, but
Mhm.
also that she's regal, that she's honored, because we also have to remember that Sekhmet is the restorer of justice, and she brings balance, and she is fiercely loyal and protective of the goddess Mayat. So I wanted to incorporate all of that, through this
Mhm.
storytelling, just to show who she is as far as my experience, and to highlight
Wow.
the fact that she is a black deity. And I want people to stop taking our stuff.
Oh my god.
I
Oh
got a
wow.
little
See, this
impassioned.
is no, but that's the first time I've ever heard about her. See, I had dabbled in writing Egyptian mythology. I did it as I used to do in my early writing. I would challenge myself because we're self taught. We're actually taught by passion, right? So I don't
Yes.
have like a I went to school for this. So what I would do is I would challenge myself. So I had written a book and a story, and I based it off of Isis and Osiris, and it was an interesting story. But what I found is like it got so confusing to me because there's so much involved with it. You know, like yeah, I'm writing Isis and Osiris, but they're also both brother and sister. Then Set hates Osiris, which is also his brother, and his sister is Isis' sister, and it's like they're all brother and sister. Basically, at the end of the day, they're all
Which
brother
is
and
true.
sister.
They are. They're all
Yeah,
related, but
they're
married
all
to each
related.
other.
Yeah, and married to each other. Yeah. So it was just like this is just, and so the story I did was where um Set chopped up Osiris into a bunch of different pieces, and
Okay.
Isis is trying to bring him back together to make him whole again. And I guess she succeeds, and later on it's where they have the Horus. I think it's Horus with
Yes.
Isis and yeah. And but like I could like for me like I ended up writing it, and then what came to me is I ended the book where, well, I shouldn't tell in here just in case somebody wants to read it, but I ended the book in an interesting way, kind of like how things came to me. But yeah, it was challenging for me to write, and I was like, I don't know if I want to write anymore.
Oh
Yeah, it was very like the history, the whole history behind it. It's a lot. It's a lot, and it's very detailed. And there's it's a lot. But I think for me, it's like okay, they're brothers. Some of them are married. Some of them are this, and it just I was like, okay, this is. I normally write about angels.
I know, I completely
That's
understand.
easier
It
for
is
me.
it is
Yeah,
easier to write about angels because the information is, kind of right there.
yeah,
Egyptian history
yeah.
is a little bit it,
You
it,
gotta
it really
hunt for it.
depends on you do, and it really depends
Yeah,
on like the dynasty and the period because it like the
yeah.
worshiping and what's crazy about Egyptian gods is that they turn into each other. So you'll have Ra, and
Mm.
then you'll have Atum Ra, and then you have these they're combinations of different variations of like Ra, and then there's different variations of Horus. You know, have Horus the younger, Horus the elder, and it's like which one are we talking about? you know. So I get
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. It got so confusing to me, and I'm like, this is just too much. It was
And
too
then when
much
if
for
you
me,
think
and I
about
think
it,
like, mhm.
well, I was just
Yeah,
going
go
to
ahead.
say, if you think about it too hard, like as far as
Mhm.
their divine relationship, their divine pairing, like yes, they came from the same source, but it's a divine pairing that transcends maybe the concept of incest. It's
Yeah,
one of those
incest.
things.
Yeah, yeah. The
Yeah,
incest was a lot. It was a lot.
it is.
Um, isn't it like some of them were saying like they were mating within the womb? I can't remember. I'm not sure. Like, but it's a lot. It's a lot. The incest is a lot. But you know what? It's a lot of stories that could come out of it too. Because so me and my daughter's a huge Marvel fan. We just finished watching. We're watching the whole Marvel series. We've watched almost 37 movies and episodes and of Marvel shows and movies. Right.
Oh
Um,
Lord, that's
we got
dedication.
to. Yeah, my daughter loves Marvel. She could talk your head off about Marvel. She knows all the characters. Yeah, yeah. Spider-Man's her favorite. She's a nut. So, um, but we watched Love and Thunder, which is about Thor and that story, whatever. But it starts out, which was really interesting, and like 2 minutes in, I'm already tearing up. It started out with this man who's walking through the desert with his daughter, and he's carrying her, and whatever. But they're in a drought. There's no water, no food, and at one point, eventually, it's like they can't even walk anymore, because they're so dehydrated, so hungry. His daughter just says, "I'm so tired," and she closes her eyes and she dies in his arms. and he buries her, and he's just like laying next to her grave, just waiting for death, basically, you know. And then he hears one of the deities call his name, saying, "You've suffered enough." And they call him, and all of a sudden there's this oasis in the middle of the desert. And he just dives into the water, and then there's this like whatever blanket or whatever, a plate of food, and he starts eating all this food. And then one of these other deities says, look at this, I forgot what they called him, but basically, like, look at this peasant eating our food. Who is he? And the guy looks up and he says his name. I can't remember the name. And he says, "Oh, he's one of mine," you know? And so apparently they had just killed some other villain that was killing all the gods. And apparently this thing, like, it's kind of like the way that it acts as like a virus. So he had cut his hand on the sword, and I guess he kind of like he got infected to take over this deity. But what really turned him is that the deity that he spent his whole life praying to, had his daughter praying to, had basically didn't even care that they suffered and died in the desert. And this was very cold and callous towards him, like just didn't care. And so he snaps basically and kills him and becomes this deity that kills all the other gods. So that's how it starts out. But it made me think about like all of these different things, like the Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology. It does, like, I see that often a lot, like where the follower at some point feels like they're neglected, like they're just a toy to them. Did you ever come across that kind of situation in your research?
Oh, Jesus. Okay, so it's not.
It's a lot what I said.
Yes, because I have to be very careful
Yeah.
about how I word this.
Okay.
So I am on my spiritual path because the one that I, the one that most of us are kind of forced into as
Mhm.
children,
Mhm.
um, it just wasn't working, and I tried everything,
Mm.
and
Mm.
I didn't. I'm like, I have told people this, and people
Mhm.
take it however they want to take, but when it comes to, I've just flat out said, pick a god. It don't matter which one, just pick
Mhm.
one. You know, and I
Mhm.
say that because everything doesn't, what's standard may not apply to you as the individual, right? So
Mm.
I learned this, and I have been researching. Like I know the Bible through and through. I have the book of Enoch. Like I have a small library of like history and occult things.
Mhm.
And so I'm well versed in the Bible. I'm well versed with some of the other missing books of the Bible. And when I began this journey of like research, I really started to uncover myself and what works
Mm.
for me and who connects with me. And so now I'm in the space where I'm very comfortable with who I am spiritually. And so my
Mm.
books will be reflecting that, you know?
Mm.
And so
Okay.
to go back to what you said about how that father felt abandoned by that very God that just sat back and watched his daughter die. Yes, there is many moments in my
Mm.
life where I was crying out, but when I look back on who responded with more awareness of who was responding, it it's a little everything kind of clicked for me.
Mm. Hmm. Yeah. I can say I've had the similar experience. I guess for me, and I see what you're saying. Like for me, I didn't have my father in my life, right? My father was not present growing up. So for me, I would, when I was younger, I would always go behind my grandfather's couch. Now, when my grandfather was here, that he was dad to me. Like I didn't care about I was a granddaddy's girl, you know? But he passed away when I was 11. So he died, he died young. But he was old already, you know. He's not gonna be around forever. But
Hmm.
I used to go behind his couch and I used to pray and ask God for siblings. And I used to do this like every day. And there's times when I would actually go behind that couch and fall asleep. And I came to have I think in that I developed a different type of relationship with God that a lot of people maybe because of the situation. It's just how it happened with me because everybody's walk with God is different, right? Everybody has their own. It's your own personal connection. So for
Yes.
me, he was father, and I think what I grew up in as knowing like, okay, he's my father, and I was fine with that. Like that whole daddy issue. I didn't have daddy issues until, and this, I was born in New York until we moved to Florida. And anytime you move from one place to the next, your whole routine changes, everything changes. So I don't have that couch, my grandfather's couch to go behind and pray anymore. I don't have that was my prayer spot.
I
Everything
understand.
changes. So you're a little bit, yeah, a little bit thrown off for a little bit. Well, I had one time my cousin, and God bless her, she didn't mean any harm by it, but I don't know why she brought this up, but she was going through her own daddy issues because her parents had just gone through a divorce. She was going through her own issues, right? Um, she had asked me, "Well, where's your dad?" And I pointed to the ceiling because in my mind, from what was communicated to me, and I don't never want to say God, I never want to speak for God or say this is what God said. This is what I felt, that I am one of his daughters, and it's actually in the Bible. It says, children who are abandoned and neglected, those are my children. He takes them, give me, those are my kids. I'm paraphrasing, but it's in the Bible. So, um, I always saw him as my father, and my sister, my cousin goes, "Oh, that's blasphemy. You're not Jesus Christ." And she started like chastising me, and I was just looking at her like confused. I'm like, "What are you talking about? That's my father."
That's
Especially
an
since I don't have
intentional
one.
misunderstanding of
Y-
what you said.
Yeah, yeah. And she attacked me and started like making a big scene out of it. And I guess she was like trying to do it to get me in trouble, which is like I was just completely confused. So my mom and my aunt got upset with her because I guess they were aware that I was in my little world of I didn't have no daddy issues because I had worked it out. Like they were not like don't touch it. If it ain't broke, don't touch it kind of thing. So then after that, I went to the kitchen where my mom and my aunt were talking. And I was like, well, where's my dad? And my mom just got quiet. Because not to say that my dad didn't come around, he would come around and he would take me out, but I never connected that that's my father, like how a child normally say, "Oh, that's my dad." I never had that connection like that with him not at that age, not at that point. I never connected. He was just some guy that insisted on hanging out with me.
I mean, I
That's how I
understand.
saw
My
it.
dad wasn't present in my life either. Grew up, I mean, I had military parents, but my mom,
Yeah.
was the main parent. And then I was raised by my grandmother. The thing
Mhm.
about spirituality and, you know, I I don't want to say I would had daddy issues. Like I was
Mhm.
missing my dad. Like I had periods where I missed my dad. What
Mhm.
changed my perspective when it comes to connecting with spirit is that
Mhm.
um, I have always experienced or felt like very odd and out of place. Like I'm
Mm.
here, but this isn't home. If
Mhm.
that makes sense,
Mhm.
there really
No,
hasn't
yeah, it
been
does.
a strong connection, and there are things that have happened in my during this walk of mine that um, may I would not have come to an understanding if I had have just stayed in the traditional way of spirituality.
Right.
It wasn't until I
Yeah.
diverted and started looking through bloodline and ancestry and where I'm more resonating with. That's when it,
Mhm.
it has all kind of culminated into where, now I
Yeah.
understand. I'm not
Yeah.
initiated
Yeah.
into any practice or faith right now. I'm just
Mhm.
kind of
Mhm.
studying and But in my own personal experiences, I I understand. I have a lot more understanding of
Yeah.
myself now.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with that. Yeah, I'm not I consider myself non-religious. And I know a lot of people might get offended by that. They feel like you got to be a part of some kind of religion. I don't. I feel like I just want to worship God. I just love God. Like I see him as my father. And the cool thing is he's a father that never goes away. He's not going to die. He's not going to go out for milk and never come back. You know what I mean?
No, I
so,
understand. I
yeah.
understand.
Yeah, so that's but I know like so I get that feeling of you feel awkward and out of place because I don't really fit in with the whole Christian scene. Um, but I don't fit in with any other kind of scene because yeah, you're just kind of like, and I feel like, and that's why I really like what you said, like, you got to do what's right for you, right? You got to do what's right for you, basically. So that's how I
Yes,
agree with that. Yeah, yeah. It gets complicated and it's sometimes hard to for other people to wrap their mind around. But I think that's where writing comes in. And for me, like when I'm writing about the different angels, the things that sometimes I'm working through a problem in the story, and the answers that I get that come to me from the different angels that I'm writing about, it solves the problem. So it's like it gives me a deeper understanding, and I love that. So I'm thinking you have the same experiences when you're writing.
I do. And then
Yeah.
I feel like people can resonate with me more through my stories. Like I've told people, find me in my books, because I feel like as an individual, you have people that you know, but then there are people that you may not know much about them, but you can feel them.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
feel me to get me.
Yeah. I agree. I so agree with you. That's crazy. So what's your plan? So are you working on the second book in the trilogy now, or do you take a break in between your writings?
So I am kind of playing catch up on all of my literary goals because, life started happening. And when I was
Yeah.
working, so I work in like the social work field. And when I was working
Okay.
at a shelter, that was exhausting.
Mhm.
It was exhausting me to the
Oh,
point where I couldn't even write. On my days off, all I want to do is sleep,
yeah.
because it's not just I'm physically tired, I'm mentally exhausted, my soul is drained. I can barely keep track of what my kid is doing because the
Mhm.
job took so much out of me. So
Wow.
when I left that job and I found I'm in a much better space now, and again, like, spirit looks out for me, ancestors, divine guides, they all look out for me because the job is right where I'm not far from it. I can actually walk to work, you know
Oh, nice.
so
Yeah.
yeah, so it's such a relief, and now I'm in a better mind frame where I can focus on the projects that I wanted to put out, and
Mhm. Mhm.
before I was putting out sometimes 3 to 4 books a year. And then there was, I had collaborated with, I did 2 collaborations with other authors for these world building
Mhm.
series. And that was a very teachable experience. And so now moving forward,
Mhm.
I just want to focus on Delizhia and what Delizhia has going on. And so
Mhm.
now I'm in the space to do so. So right now I can't take any breaks. Like I break here and there, but it's just so much material
Yeah.
that I'm overflowing. My cup runneth over with ideas and creativity,
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it does. It does. I can relate. I'm going through some similar. I actually because I started writing in 2009, and what I decided, like, I went back and I looked at a lot of my stuff. I'm always trying to improve. Like, okay, change the book cover, do this. Like as I grow. So I finally reached a point where I'm like, okay, now I feel like I really understand the whole craft a lot better than I did in 2009. So I started revamping all of my books. And one thing I didn't know about back then is developmental editing. So I got into developmental editing and I started going through all my books. and I found out that I was leaving a lot of the story on the table. And when I went back
Mm.
and went through, I was like, wait a second, this was always there. I just didn't put it in the book. So, for example, what my first book is called Endurance, and the main character May, she actually is a twin, but I never put it in the original story. And
Oh
I don't know
no.
why. Yeah, I don't. It was weird. It's weird. I don't know if you experienced this. Like, it's almost like, how should I put it? You have your character that you're writing about, but behind that character, there's another character that's kind of like in the shadow.
Yeah,
But
I've done that. I've
they
done
only
that
come
several
forward
times.
if you focus. Yes, you gotta focus on them for them to come forward and for you to get their story. And that's what it was like. So she stayed in the shadow, like almost like a twin in the womb. Like they have one that's bigger than the other. you know.
Oh yeah.
Um, Yeah, so it was like that kind of similar thing. So this twin kind of stayed in the shadow, but when I went to developmentally edit and really take my time and go through the story, she came forward and her story came forward. And I was like, this, it makes the book so much better. It's crazy. So I'm actually on the fifth book in that series, like revamping it, and I freaking love it. And I feel like you got to write it to where you love it. You will read your own book and enjoy it, and you can care less about who does it. I think
Oh,
we got to reach that
absolutely.
point. Yeah.
Absolutely. It really would confuse me when other writers, or like writers, black writers especially, that they felt pigeonholed writing
Mm,
just urban books, but they really wanted to
yeah.
write fantasy and horror. And I'm just
I get
like, I
that.
would always be like, why just write the daggone book? Like, what's stopping you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's they were always afraid that they would get judged. It was all of these external factors that came in and interrupted their process for writing. And it's like, write the book that you want to read.
Yeah, that's what I was told. That's what. So I never. Yeah, I never. I tried to write urban fiction and I suck at it. It might. It's like it's just not for me to write. It's just not for me to write. And then when I think about it, like I don't really have all of my stories are more spiritual and supernatural. I don't think it really fits with the urban fiction scene. So it ends up sounding weird. I've tried.
No,
It
I
just
get it. I
didn't
wrote
work out.
one book
Yeah.
that was urban, maybe considered urban fiction, but by the standard and definition as what I knew urban fiction to be, like Eric Jerome Dickey type of work, or Carl Weber.
Mm,
But the definition of
yeah.
urban fiction has since shifted to more street lore, or like ratchet romance,
Street
that type
lit.
of thing.
Yeah.
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 And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
wrote it, and it was a great story in my opinion, but it's not available anymore. I will not revisit it. I think I when I wrote it, I was just going through something. But that's again,
Right.
like you, that's not who I am. That's
Yeah.
definitely not who I am.
Yeah. So do you feel like do you feel like sometimes your book gets shunned by other urban fiction authors because they don't know how to wrap their mind around it? Do you ever experience that, or urban fiction readers?
I mean, they've tried to, but I don't care. It's
Yeah.
just like, if we're sitting at a table and I have a seat and you are not familiar with the genre of work, or um I come off as maybe an oddball to you, because I'm just, my expression of blackness is different than what you're used to. I
Mhm.
don't I
Yeah.
just don't care. I'm here to sit, write, and reap all of the benefits of my work just much like you do. I have been in spaces,
Yeah.
especially when I had did book was vendors at certain events, and I'm the only black author that
Mhm.
writes what I write. So I was met with a lot
Mhm.
of curiosity and
Mhm.
intrigue, and I just kept it pushing, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, because I've experienced that too. And I was like, oh, what do you write? That's not urban fiction. I was like, no, it's not urban fiction.
Sometimes they
There's
get
other
scared
books. I
too.
don't know. There's other genres. Yeah, like there's other genres.
Yes, like
Yeah.
blackness is not expressed just in street lit. Like black
Yeah.
people, there if you look in African lore, you find all types of mystical beings. We like vampires, we like
Yes.
fairies, we are there's
Mhm.
witches. So I don't understand why you
Mhm.
don't understand, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so at least I'm not alone in that. Yeah, I do get that sometimes, but I like your attitude. I'm gonna adopt your attitude. Just like whatever, be like a water on the duck's back. Whatever.
For real, I think they just be mad because they didn't
Hilarious.
write that, you know?
And it's true. I've have other urban fiction author friends who said that they want to write. They don't want to write urban fiction anymore. They want to write other stuff, but yeah, like they don't even know how to tap into it to do that. Like it's and then like whoever they published with or published under is basically demanding only urban fiction novels from them. They have to write it. And I was just like, I would get tired of writing this thing. That's why I like multi-genre, because I like the fact that I'm writing, I'm just letting the story write itself. I'm letting the characters speak for themselves. I'm letting them tell the story. I'm just the tools. And I find that it's such a better book. It's such a more interesting read. And sometimes a lot of times it's unpredictable because even me won't know what's going to happen next. You know,
Yeah, that's
like, oh, what's going to
definitely
happen
the
next? I
perks of
don't
it.
know.
That's
Yeah.
definitely the perks of
Yeah.
it. And when authors are getting signed to these publishers and they find themselves in that space where that's all they can write, I think authors should take time to think about their individual journey instead of being in such a hurry to jump on being
Hmm.
published, linked to a publisher. Think about what that
Yeah.
experience, what your author experience looks like for you, because I've
Yeah.
seen it too. They're pushing out
Yeah.
7, 8, 9 books in the same
Yeah.
series, and that's not what they really
Yeah.
want to do.
No. And I think it also you run into the fear of your books all sounding. I never forget this comment. I actually read it on a Daniel Steele book. My mom's a huge romance reader. Well, she used to be years ago when I was younger. She read a lot of Daniel Steele, and I just happened to be looking at reviews and checking books out. This is like in the early days, trying to understand everything. And one of the comments I saw on Daniel Steele's books is it's the same story, different characters, different scene. And I was like,
Yep.
wow. Yep. Wow. Because the publisher gives them a certain amount of time to push out the next book. So that doesn't give time for creativity to breathe and for the characters, for you to really gel with your story. So you end up writing the same story you wrote last time, just now it's instead of it being in California, it's in New York,
Yeah, because
instead
they're
of
sticking
Peggy
to
and
what they know
Pam.
sells. Yeah, it's because
Yeah.
they're sticking to what
Yeah.
they know sells, and it's you see it
Hmm.
in the movie industry where they're just revamping.
That's true.
This movie
Old
or
stuff.
series is like barely 5 years old, but they're kicking it back up again because they know that's what it's going to
Yeah.
sell.
See, now I can see your books being a movie. That'll be a really good movie. So
I
I really
accept
hope
this.
that they would, yes, I hope that they would start looking at self-published authors, like just checking out their books. There's a lot of great stories out there. They don't have to rewrite the same story they just told all over again. Like, yeah, I don't know how many Spider-Mans they have. I've lost count, literally lost
Too
count.
many.
My daughter knows. Too many. And it's just like, there's other stories. There's other, even in Marvel, there's other superheroes that they haven't even touched on. But it's, I love what you're saying. I agree. I completely agree. And I think both your books would be an excellent movie. The Lost Queen would be great. And then this one, I can't even say the name, The Blood of Skemet. Is that right? That's
Sekhmet. Sekhmet.
Sekhmet. Okay. Okay, wow. So tell everyone where they can purchase your books and when your next book will be available. What date?
So, all of my books can be found on Amazon. You can also visit my website, missjenkinsbooks.com, and get a signed copy from me. Blood of Sekhmet, I did push it. It's a 2025 release date scheduled, but I may surprise people and have it released sooner. So
Mm.
we'll see. But if
But
not
but they can
sooner, the
pre-order it.
latest, they can
Yeah.
pre-order it. Yes.
Yes. Awesome.
And I have some other things under my sleeve too, that I'm gonna pop out
Oh,
and
really?
show. Yeah, I just got to get the cover for this next one.
Oh, okay. That's good. So you staying busy. I love it. I love what you're doing. So, well, we're gonna wrap it up, and we're gonna have our after show conversation between me and you. So, thank you everyone for tuning in, and we hope you have a wonderful day. Is there anything you would like to tell everybody before we leave?
So I also have like my own candles, homemade candles that they will be available on August 17th starting out. So if you like candles and if you consider yourself a spiritual girly, I got you too. So just visit my website and you can see.
Anyway. Okay. So it's gonna be on your website. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for being a part of the show, and stay tuned. I'm gonna end this right now.